New preacher in town was walking the street. He saw a little boy and he said, "Son, can you tell me where the post office is?" And the little boy said, "Oh, sure, mister. If you take a right down here this next street and go about half a block, it's there on your right." He said, "Well, thank you, son. Well, listen, if you'll come to church on Sunday, I'll tell you how to get to heaven." He said, "Mister, you don't even know how to get to the post office." I don't know if you're visiting this morning. I don't know what brought you here, whether somebody invited you or whether you saw some of our advertisements or somebody knocked on your door or whatever was the cause, but we are so thankful that you're here. And maybe by the end of it, I can tell you how to get to heaven. Now, I do know where the post office is. Do we have any Harvard graduates here? Anybody graduate from MIT? How about Princeton University? Really? You have to have a 4.0 or a 32, a grade average, or a 32 on your ACT, or 1,600 on your SAT score in order to get into a school like that. Not just anyone can get into those schools. Maybe you have received letters in the mail saying that you are pre-approved for credit. Just to read in the fine print that your approval is based on your credit score, and you could be rejected. Not just anyone gets unlimited credit. Everyone considers Jesus, everyone at the time of Jesus' life on this earth considered Jesus a rabbi. This was beyond dispute. The rabbis of Jesus' time had a strict guidelines on which a person could become a Talmud. The word Talmud translates disciple or student. And in the time of Christ, for a person to be considered to be worthy of being a Talmud, he would have to know the Torah, or the first 5 books of the Old Testament. And he would have to be above reproach. He'd have to have the scriptures virtually memorized. But for Jesus, the rabbi, things were different. In Luke chapter 9, verse 23, it says, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me." We'll just use this. When making the invitation to potential followers, Jesus invites anyone. He invites anyone to be his Talmud, to be his disciples. Anyone is invited. Jesus demonstrated anyone in the way he recruited his Talmud. All you had to do is look at his disciples, and you can see the embodiment of the word anyone. People, if they were looking at his disciples, they would see a tax collector. They would see a zealot. They were, and these type of people, that they would see fishermen, rough-cut fishermen. And these were not the kind of people that would even be a second considered as disciple material for any self-respecting rabbi. But these were the kind of people that Jesus chose. Anyone looking at his disciples would start to think, maybe I could be a Talmud. Maybe I could be a disciple. And Jesus invited anyone. People started flocking to hear the teachings of Jesus Christ. People were going to where they would be accepted. They would understand that anyone means everyone. Anyone means everyone. And we say that. We go to John 3:16, we say, "For God so loved the world that whosoever believes in him," whosoever believes in him shall not perish. And we say those words. But do we mean it? Do we believe it truly? Anyone means everyone. But sometimes we like our church just the way it is. We usually prefer things to stay the same, and the same soon becomes standard, and pretty soon a standard becomes a qualification. Jesus knew how things would go. In Luke chapter 9:23, he reminds us that there should not be any qualifications for coming to Jesus. Jesus does away with qualifications. And sometimes we qualify. Maybe we size people up before we invite them to church. They just don't seem like church-type people. They probably wouldn't want to come to church. Sometimes we expect people to be ready-made Christians instead of newborn Christians without a clue. Sometimes if we are not like people, then we don't bother to be or invite those other people. But we continue to say, anyone is welcome. But Jesus didn't just get rid of qualifications when Jesus said anyone. He did something else. In eliminating qualifications, Jesus got rid of all excuses. No qualifications means no excuses. Sometimes we hide behind excuses. But there are no excuses not to follow Jesus. The salesman has no excuse not to follow Jesus. The dropout student couldn't complain about his past anymore. Now the mother of 4 couldn't say she never got a chance to learn from a rabbi. Jesus said, anyone. What's your excuse? I think most people have been holding off on a relationship with Jesus Christ because we say, we're busy. We're just too busy. So what is it for you? Is it because you're too busy putting in hours at the office? Is it because you're really focusing on your marriage lately? Is it because the kids need a lot more time and attention? Is it because times have been tough and you need to get a second job? What's your excuse? What's your excuse for not having a close relationship with Jesus Christ? Is it because of personal baggage that you might have? Maybe it's a past that you're not proud of. Maybe there's been addiction in your life. Maybe a divorce. A bankruptcy has been an excuse for a long time. It's easy to hide behind those words, no excuses, because who's going to argue with someone who's been through a tragedy or someone who's been emotionally scarred? But Jesus gets rid of all the excuses when he invites anyone. If anyone would come after me. Anyone is welcome to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. Anyone. Sexual immoral past? Anyone. Ex-con? Anyone. Recently divorced? Anyone. Inmate? Anyone. Legalist? Anyone. Alcoholic? Anyone. A pothead? Anyone. Addict? Anyone. Hypocrite? Everyone. Are we ready to embrace? Are we truly ready to embrace the word anyone? If anyone would come after me. Because if just anyone comes to church, that could possibly mess things up. All of a sudden the church gets filled with a lot of unchurched people coming to church. We will be forced to get out of our comfort zones. We will have to rub shoulders with people who are different than us. Sometimes people who are hard to tolerate and even harder to love. But followers of Christ, not fans, but followers of Christ, are willing to break down walls, open doors, and welcome anyone into God's family if they are obedient to Him. Right alongside Jesus Christ. There's a difference between acceptance, and let me get this straight. There's a difference between acceptance and condoning. We don't condone sin, whatever form it takes. But we do accept sinners who are seeking Jesus to change their lives. I'm not saying that once a person becomes a follower, their sin is tolerated. It's not. I'm saying that you have to start at the cross before you can become like Jesus Christ. The 12 were not disciples who followed Jesus. They were not even necessarily religious men, maybe a couple of them. Jesus called them to follow, and in following, they became disciples. Fans don't know how to handle people like that, and they prefer not to know. But followers are willing to listen, willing to hear stories of brokenness and sin, and still welcome those people with open arms. But the next step is for both brand new Christians and long-time believers to move into a completely committed relationship with Jesus. And we need to have a grasp on that. Because I'm not talking about just going through the motions. I'm not talking about just going to church. Jesus calls you to more than that. He wants to be involved in your life. He wants to have a completely committed relationship with you. Because to be a follower, it's anyone, but it's everything. It's anyone, but it's everything. When a Talmud was finally accepted into a rabbi's school, they would leave their homes, they would leave their jobs, whatever was holding them back, and they would go and they would follow the rabbi. Literally, they would follow the rabbi wherever he went. They would volunteer to do things for him. So if the rabbi went to the market, they would follow him there. If the rabbi went to another town, they would follow him there. To follow Jesus could cost even more. As the rabbi Jesus chose to live homeless, then his disciples were also homeless. And the rabbi Jesus decided to go among the sinners and the shameful. Then the disciples went in with him, with the sinners and the shameful. His students would follow. And if the rabbi Jesus decided not to flee from persecution, his students would follow. So I'm asking you this morning, what is holding you back from being a follower? Jesus offers to anyone the choice to follow him. If anyone would come after me, this is the key verse for this entire Bible series, Not a Man. If anyone would follow me, then they'll take up their cross and follow me daily. If anyone would come after me, let them take up their cross and follow me daily. And with no qualifications, you've got no excuses. Even though his invitation is to anyone, he also guarantees that it will cost you anything and everything. Now, this morning, I'm not some cultist saying sell all that you have and put it in the offering plate. I'm saying if you're going to follow Jesus, all that you have already belongs to him. And what you have, he lets you use to bless other people with and to meet the needs of your families. But to follow him can cost you everything. Are you ready? Are you ready to be a follower? Are you anyone? Let me tell you what, to Jesus Christ, you are someone. Someone so special to him that he gave his life on the cross for you, that you might have eternal life. All of you anyones, I have to speak louder now. All of you anyones are someone to Jesus Christ. And don't let anybody take that away from you. God loves you. He gave his son Jesus to die for you on the cross, to wipe away all sin, to redeem you so that you might have life eternal with him and never give up. So he calls you from this world. He calls you from whatever sin you're entangled in. He calls you from whatever's holding you back. He gives no qualifications. He allows no excuses. He says, come and follow me. I'm sorry, I need to bury my father. Well, let the dead bury the dead. Well, okay, let me say goodbye to my family first. No, he calls you now, this morning, at this time, during this time which we call the song of invitation. Don't let there be any excuses in your life. Step forward in faith, believing on him, and repent of your sins. Repent of those things that are coming between you and God. And allow God to make you who you were intended to be. Be born again in the water and spirit of Christian baptism. Bury that old self and come forth and be a creature in Christ. Anyone, you come forward this morning, nobody's going to stop you. Nobody's going to ask if you're qualified. Jesus did it on the cross. If anyone would follow after him, won't you follow him now down the south? Won't you follow Jesus? And become more than a fan, become a follower. As we stand